Okay, Joe, thanks for your order here, and I got your new radio here. I haven't done anything yet except send some PC file to the radio and obviously enable the full frequency option for it, as you can see. So, oh, let me come back to that. So this is yours right here. So I'm going to demonstrate to you in a little while here on the video what you were asking, but right now I'm going to set the radio up, so I'm going to kind of do that, and I'll be back when it's done. Okay, there's the transmit frequency. So see, I'm in the service portion of the radio. So I set your FM to 1, and it's close to 50. This one doesn't allow me to go all the way up to 50, so I set your modulation on FM, the deviation to about 3.95. That's the absolute maximum that goes. Okay, so this is AM where you wanted 20 watts, so right now it's almost 25, so we'll give you 20. Hopefully the editing I do will knock out the vacuum in the background, but the wife, she doesn't care what I do in here, so I need to actually have her come in here and do this and do that in here. There's 1 watt on low, so that's set up. So we're going to look at your modulation, and we'll make some changes there when need be. So look here. Look here. Now again, this is with test equipment, so what ends up happening with voice will be different, as we should expect. With test equipment, you know, this thing is, oops, let me make sure I'm in the right setting here for that. It should be, yep. Okay. We're AM mod. These are really low on modulation when you turn that carrier down to 1 watt. So we're going to turn it up so we can get some type of reading here. And I don't want to take it too crazy, but you know, it might be too much, but there's no point in taking it really much farther, because you know, then you start doing that and just waste of time. So very unlikely that anybody's going to run this at 1 watt. I do not recommend running a small amplifier with this radio. You got a 100 watt give or take radio here. I'm not an amplifier person really. I mean, yeah, I see a need for them at times in the hobby and stuff, but it's more or less, you know, what are you trying to accomplish with said amplifier? If you're just running it simply for the fact that you want to run it, I guess, you know, so be it. But I don't know. I kind of would rather just try to do things without it, and that's just how I like to operate. Now there are times where, yeah, sure, just flick it on and let everybody see what you can do. But lately, I don't know. I'm trying to do things a little bit better and just do things a little bit with less. More is less, I guess. I don't know. So here's your high power audio. So we got that about right where it should be. I got no problem with what people do. I mean, if it's fun for you to do certain things, then that's what's best for you as an operator. But I don't know, I'm just kind of at a certain point where all the power and the amplifiers, it doesn't really impress me. And I don't transmit on the air to impress people. I just try to talk, and I want to have good conversation on the radio at this point. You know, I'd rather have good conversation than just hooting and hollering out there. But lately I don't have a lot of time to actually use the radio. So this is the carrier with the modulation on AM. This is your RMS, so you're almost double like the 1 kilohertz test tone, and you can see about 97-98%, and then that's how it looks there. So it looks pretty good. It's pretty uniform. What you see on both side bands is the same for the most part, so it's very, what's here is the same here, so, which is a good thing. And that's really it on these. So there's not a whole lot to do because there's no sideband, so can skip over that. Let me grab a microphone here and we'll get started with your what you asked for. Okay, so mic gain's all the way up. I'm running this mic here, the DX mic, and RF power's all the way up, so about 20 watts. Okay, so you want to see where 15 watts is. Now again, this is going to change on your setup, I'm sure. So this is just kind of, I'm on a 50 ohm bird dummy load, so it's going to vary by your installation and stuff. It's really hard to get it right at 15, but that's close enough. So you can see there's really nothing to really reference here, but it's 15 watts. 10 watts. I guess you can try to see by the meter, but these meters aren't really meant for much accuracy on the radio. There's 15 watts. That's how it looks at 15 watts. 20 watts is pretty much right there. So 10 watts will go to, so I guess you can go off the meter a little bit. It's kind of lining up with what it's seeing. So there's 10 watts. And then 5 watts. 5 watts shows a couple bars there. So we'll just go with the RMS power here. So when I talk, hello radio, 1 2 3 1 2 3. So you can see almost triple at times. No, I'm not going to get all crazy in the microphone, but you know, my talk power is there. That looks pretty good. Actually, I'm off scale, but let me fix that. Doesn't really have any barring on like what the test is. It just shows it in a different picture, but that's a more accurate view of with the 5 watts what the radio's doing, so you can see. And then on AM with peak. So with peak, it's going to do pretty much all of what the radio allows at a certain point. So there you go, right there. 1 2 3 1 2 3. So I'm not really getting crazy and screaming and hollering, but you can see what the radio is capable of doing. So I say don't run something small. It's not going to work out well for you. 1 watt. 1 watt or so right there, and as the radio heats, the low carriers come up and the high carriers drop. That's normal for these MOSFET radios. That's what happens. So you can see on the low carrier what we're looking at. And then 1 watt swings whatever it swings, which sometimes is a lot. This meter is really fast. It picks up peaks very easily. A lot of meters do not. So you know, you can't compare this meter to your typical you know, your CB grade meter. So so we did, no, do 10. I'm just trying to show you because you asked about this stuff specifically, so I'm just trying to show you kind of the power levels and what they're going to do. And people can use this as a reference, I guess, too. It's really hard sometimes to get it like right where I want it. That's close enough, I guess. 10 watts. So what I got to do is do this. And we're pretty damn close there. Let me do this. And then we'll do this. There's our dBm power, 39.9. There's our dBm power right there. So we're good. All right, we're lining up. I'm not going to do that every time, but that's good enough. Okay, so let's go to RMS, which is always the little W. And now we can see what we're doing there. So the radio is about double, maybe a little bit over. And as I talk, you can see it's pretty uniform everywhere. peak envelope power. As you increase the carrier, obviously you get more top end. It's a little more stable. So as you can see, the radio is always going to tell you pretty much it's at max. So 15 watts. Close enough. I think this will be my longest 655 video I've ever done, but there's 15 watts right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, check. Hello. The meter got mad at me for a minute. There's a lot of audio in these radios, and every once in a while it trips something in the meter. It's like, wait, what are you doing? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, check, check, hello. There's 100 plus right there. And just for reference here, let's put the probe back in for the scope so we can look and see what kind of audio the radio is still producing with this single tone. So we'll do that now. Alright, let's take a look. You can see it really ramps up, and that's essentially what the radio does with voice. The limiter basically doesn't lock in a lot of cases, so you know you're going to get super high level modulation, but with the single tone it's basically perfect. 15 watts, 60 watts, 61 watts. So you can't ask for anything better than that, and that's the difference here. We have to remember with these type of radios is with test equipment, it tests perfect. The design of the radio takes over when you speak with your voice into a microphone, and that's not a testing scenario there. So we can't judge the radio by what it does with voice. We have to judge it with test equipment, and that's the only way to test audio and test modulation is like that. You can't test it with voice. Your little power meters and stuff that the hobby has that have modulation scales, those are very inaccurate. They just don't work. So you know, you can make a radio that has a mod scale on it, show anything you want. So let's go to 20 watts here now. I think that's easy. That's going to be all the way up. So I'll put our mic back in for that test because I've already shown it before with the single tone. So 20 watts. It's about 21 right now. So close enough anyways. As the radio heats and cools, the carriers do fluctuate a little bit, so we have to remember that. And this is RMS again right here. So as you can see, we're looking at somewhere almost double the carrier on RMS, and you can see there a lot of modulation on the window. And then obviously here it's going to be over 100, which they always are. So about 100. These actually, I think these actually do it just a tad bit more like peak power than the 955, and that's generally normal because it's less modes. So usually with less modes, there's less stuff that the signal has to pass through. And I found that to be the case with a lot of different radios. If you take the sideband out of like a model that may have it, and then you have another model that has a similar board that doesn't have sideband, usually you get better performance on like AM. So I don't know why that is, but it just seems to be the case. So you can see here as I talk, it's pretty much peaking up there right where it should, every single word I say. So when you get up to 20, it's going to be the most consistent power. And they sound good in all modes, or obviously AM and FM on this one, but all power levels. You turn that carrier down too low, you're not going to sound that good. You're going to have too much swing and stuff, and you know you got to have some kind of carrier. So again, I don't recommend running it low and trying to run some low powered amplifier. You need to run something that can at least produce one full S unit over what this radio is going to produce. So at least 400 watts is what you're shooting for with an amplifier. You need to have at least 400 watts output to really have any noticeable difference. Anything after that, the next biggest jump is 1600 watts. So really, you're not even really benefiting by even going with a 400, 500 watt with this. You might as well just go for the gusto and get yourself a 1600 watt if that's something you want to do. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of wear and tear on other things to get that kind of power, but you know, that's what I would recommend, is skip the single S unit increase and go for the 2S unit increase. So if you're talking on this and giving the guy a 6, give him an 8 and put out 1600 watts, and he'll notice it then. But pretty much most of this stuff is just conditions anyways, and that's going back to what I said before about I like to run a little more modest, and conditions are going to do a lot for you, especially on a clear channel or frequency. If you're trying to get through on the most popular ones, then yeah, it's going to be hard, you know, because everybody else is doing the same thing. So hopefully that's everything you wanted to see. Real quick, I'll put this on my antenna, and then I'll get this one ready to go ahead of schedule. Here's the weather band. This is my local one again. One day I'll figure out where all these other transmitters are. So there ain't really much going on that I can hear in Michigan, so put the A&L on, that gives us a better sound. There's a little bit of stuff out there, but if I'm not picking up much here, that's telling me I don't have very good conditions. You do have this RX tone. You can make it more bassy or more high, or you can use the high cut. And you can use a combination of both for an extreme bass sound, or kind of like a roll-off effect there. With, you know, you got it on high, you got the high cut on. So I tend to leave mine at like 3, you know, with the high cut sometimes, or not. It just depends. Some days I like a little less of that hiss sound, other days it doesn't matter. You can also drop quickly, you know, 5 up, 5 down, that kind of thing. So you actually can go full 10. So, you know, just by doing that. And it's pretty dead though. Not much going on out here. Not even here, I don't hear any of the rumbles. So one thing to remember with these kind of radios is the little bit of work that I do here, I think just helps it makes it sound a little bit better. But you know, I'm not taking any credit for anything. You know, the credit is to these guys, because they're the ones that pushed for a certain type of radio to be made that kind of suits what we want here in America. This stuff is supposed to be fun. You know, we got to have fun what we're doing out here. And yeah, it looks great on test equipment under test, but once we're not testing and we're using, things change a little bit. And that's what I've said before. People like to judge things because they use voice, and you can't do that when you're testing a radio. You have to test the right way. So we got to remember when the rules and all the stuff were made, and this isn't me saying this, this is a buddy of mine, and it's very true what he says. You know, that stuff was made back in the 1960s and 70s and stuff, and why it was made is because things were so easily interfered with back then. I mean, we were using corded telephones and stuff like that, and the world has changed a lot now in the digital age. So even though there may be a lot of dirty stations out there, I don't think the rules were ever really made to stop bleed over. You know, the rules were made to stop interference in other people's homes and stuff like that, and businesses and whatever. So the rules that may be in place, maybe they should revisit some of that stuff in this current age. And I think maybe some things could be changed for the better. But, you know, that's just neither here nor there. You know, you can make a 4-watt radio be grossly overmodulated, and it will bleed channels just like anything else. So just because you don't have power doesn't mean that you can't bleed channels. So, you know, the bleeding channels thing is part of radio. And the only thing you can do at that point is try to ignore it, or, you know, try to stop it. You know, if somebody bothers you that much. But I don't let anything on the radio bands bother me. There's more to life than worrying about if somebody's bleeding you. You know, eventually they'll get off the radio. If you acknowledge it, a lot of times that just makes it worse, and then the guys will keep doing it because people want to, you know, distract people and disrupt people. So it's a shame there's nothing going on right now out there, but it's pretty quiet. So there's a.
Well, it turns out a lot of them old ladies need their driveway graded up.
Not sure.
I'll talk to an old lady.
I'm not sure who these guys are. I think they're
You
local
may
or something.
talk to her, but
But you can get an overall sense that we got some receive here.
I would say maybe once or twice I've shit in a public toilet.
There's a noise reduction. You have to turn that on here. I'll put it on level 1.
I do it all the time. I'll just pull right over and hop on the fucking.
Make sure you leave this gate function on. That's important too. Right here.
Yeah, you do.
There's a level 1.
This our exit. I always get these confused.
It does help a little bit with noise. There's with it off.
Just cut that car off. I always get this confused because I'm like.
You'll notice when you change channels with it on though, it resets every time. Same thing when you talk and then you unkey, it will do that. So if that bothers you, just don't use it. I generally don't use it on any of my radios. It was really fun in the beginning, but I've kind of grown where I don't need it. Noise is kind of part of radio.
Corner there on whatever that fucking road is there.
Oh boy. Well, this is a adult channel, so it's part of radio. Alright, well thanks a lot, Joel. Get this ready to go. 73.